Hi, I'm Omar Ibrahim, a member of the TED STEM Schools Club. And today we'll be talking about my talk, which is about the price of fear, or in other words, how death is a real threat. I'll start by reciting a part of a poem by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. But why did everyone else choose the other road? So, I want all of you, each one of you, to close your eyes for a sec and think of a moment. A moment when you decided to give in for the safe side instead of taking the risk, the road less traveled by. A moment when you decided to stay silent in class, to keep secrets, to hide pain. Okay, now I guess you must be wondering why I brought this up. I guess as we get deep into this, you might start to wonder a little more before you finally realize it. Just hang on. So, because I trust you guys, I want to tell you a story about my life. More of a trivia, actually. Fair warning, though, it's not a happy trivia. I'm a 16-year-old teenager. However, I've had many experiences with death. So, honestly, you don't believe me, huh? I first encountered death 12 years ago when my grandfather, someone whom I was much connected to, died of cancer. At the time, he was probably everything to me. And understanding that people just go away and never come back was a bit too much. It was a pivotal change point in my life when I finally had the time to think through how serious life is and define where I stand between the sentiments of death and life. Only that I never actually let it take over me. I had a couple more personal encounters with death, siblings, friends, relatives of friends, pets, and even me personally, almost. Drowning once and electrocuted the second time. But just for the sake of keeping this as friendly as can get, I will not get much into details. Now you must be thinking, what does death has to do with the roads? Or why on earth I'm bringing this up? And more like, that you didn't get here to be sad. More on that in a minute. I'm here to tell you why the hideous 5-letter lexicon that spells D-E-A-T-H not only destroys our chances in a good life, but destroys us too. But before we go on, we must agree on two things. One, death is inevitable, and it doesn't make it any better to neglect it. And two, reconciling with how inexorable death is actually makes for a way better persona than evading it. And just one more thing before we hop on and understand why we should not fear death. Let's ask ourselves, why do we even fear death? I asked myself the same very question a couple years ago, and I came across two reasons why death matters so much. A, loath of loss. We humans despise parting with someone we love. And B, the fear of the unbeknownst. Humans by nature are afraid of what they do not know, just like death. And they have been that way ever since the first crack of dawn for them on Earth. Just like how until the disestablishmentarianism actually meant something, that England decided to take a second look at their fear of science, that they saw deified the divine laws of God. Now, when humans abandon their fear, they become more curious to learn, to feel, and they become even more resilient with bad emotions, such as sadness, awe, and panic. One way to look at it is how Vince Gilligan portrayed it in his show Breaking Bad. In Breaking Bad, and don't worry, no spoilers ahead, our hero, Walter White, a chemistry school teacher who is much of an unexceptional school teacher, but he is yet underachieving in many fields of his life. He's constantly sticking to the conventional ways of doing things. One day, however, Walter White receives the news of his unsurmountable to come soon death of lung cancer. Then Walter White decides to run a methamphetamine drug operation that drives him into dangers he is absolutely certain he wouldn't have stood a chance to before receiving his cancer news. And the point here is not that I want you to run a methamphetamine drug operation, but just to understand how counterproductive death can be. Death, the way death has been undermining our lives, has been going on forever. Years, centuries, decades, no, millennia, over 7 millennia on record, and way even before. Death has spawned what is currently estimated to be over 4,200 religions, and still counting, all loosely based on what is waiting for us after death and where do our loved ones go. Death, these religions have been built on the endless reassurance of the afterlife safety for whoever decide to follow their particular religion. That has got us to devote so much time to worship mostly non-existent God, and no offense, whether you're a believer or not, you totally cannot agree that all 4,200 religions at the moment are true. Death, and not only that, death has made us fear science and all that seems supernatural for more than we can comprehend. Death has led us to destroy millions of books in the Alexandria Library and same in the House of Wisdom in Baghdad. Death has made the Emperor King of China destroy 500,000 of scholars' work. Death has got the Muslims to destroy every single book in the University of Nalanda in India, and the Japanese to destroy every single library in China during World War II. We have been slacking for a long time because of death, and we are the ones who are letting it do this, and we're the ones who are letting it do this right now and right here. We're too afraid to face the music that we get mad when someone like me rubs the truth in our faces. I keep repeating the word death because I know that it hurts your ear, because you should not fear death. The only thing it is doing to you is making you go from the magnificent person you are to someone much, much worse. That is why we choose the safer road, because it is safer. Because it is as far as it could be from death. That's why we keep silent in class. That's why we keep secrets. That's why we hide our pain, we hide our agony, we hide our traumatization. That's why we're not living our lives. The livelihood of the universe fades with each step along the path of the safer road. We're lost in these people woods. We get to see these divergent roads a lot. We get to make these decisions a lot. I think it's time we reconsider our priorities. Do we want to survive in life without enjoying any of it? Or do we want to live? Just think of how the world could have been different if we decided to keep our fear aside.